And welcome into the Paul Farrington Show. Paul Farrington joined alongside Jack Weinberger, Robert Ziggy Ziegler, who's not at the University of Virginia. He is, in fact, in California, over 3,000 miles away. Crazy.
I was about to say overseas, but he's not overseas. He's just far away.
Well, it depends which way you go.
True. It's true. You're right. Ziggy's overseas right now.
So Ziggy is very far away. And then very close to us is the best executive producer.
That'd be a long run.
Long run. Zach Bloomquist, who has his own camera on him today. Because at the end of the show, we're going to do a little discussion. We had our villains draft in the last episode. And Zach made a bold, kind of outrageous claim about a villain who went undrafted. We'll name him later. And he claims he's better than Darth Vader.
Over the number 3 pick in our draft.
Over the number 3.
And frankly, the number 1 pick.
Yeah,
who I debated between Joker and Darth Vader.
Joker, good pick. But for me, Darth Vader's 1. Joker would probably go in about 2. But Zach has someone in mind who went undrafted who he says better than Darth Vader.
I looked at like every list. He's not even in the top 20.
No, it's a horrible claim. But we'll get there. We'll get there. Later on in the show, we'll have some Browns and Broncos discussion. Actually, we'll lead with the Broncos today. Just remember, please like, comment, and subscribe. As we say, it goes a long way. If you enjoy what you see, tell us why. If you hate what you see, tell us why. It's fine. Andrew's not with us today. He has a big baseball game tomorrow, but he should be regularly joining us moving forward once the baseball season ends.
Once they hoist the trophy.
That's what we should see.
Oh, yeah.
And
hey, we need him. Pat McAfee cut by FanDuel off to ESPN. There's a big opening.
Was he cut by FanDuel?
You're right. He cut FanDuel and chose to line with ESPN. But look, all I'm saying is if they're in the brand for some Division II basketball betting, we're the show.
Yeah, if you're looking for your 1-star prospect to develop at FanDuel, I think this is the show to take on a risk.
I've been told that we're the Anthony Richardson of sports podcasts.
That's a good comparison.
I donate every day. They owe us. I donate every day to FanDuel.
You are. You're one of the best contributors in the world.
I donate every day.
Yeah. And Ziggy, you're totally right. This show here could either be really, really good or crash and burn unlike any other, spectacularly.
Well, with all the subscribers we've been getting, it looks like it's on the up and up.
Yeah, look at us, 384 or wherever we're at. So if you've been listening,
soon to be 1,000.
If you're listening, it's a slow grind. And
4,000.
We thank everyone who has been listening through with us.
Oh, and I hope that one dude's happy we're back in our regular seats now.
Oh, Bill Withers.
Yeah, Bill Withers. Yeah. That's
Bill? We exist to make you happy. Whatever you want, Bill.
That's not you, is it? That's a real person, right?
No, that is not me. That really is someone who cares about how we're sitting on the show.
We never know if someone comments about, like, it seems like they regularly watch the show. I always assume it's Ziggy or Jack or Andrew under a fake account, but it seems like some people do regularly listen. If you do, please tell us in the comments section because we will shout you out often.
I appreciate Bill. That's awesome.
That was very nice. Thanks, I was stunned to see that comment, and it was.
I'm back in the seat for you.
Yeah. So, Bill, there you go. We are back in our seats, and we will not be moving for a long time. With that said, why don't we start off today? We mentioned the Denver Broncos. There's a couple teams in the AFC that have gone a little bit under the radar, especially with the big moves for Aaron Rodgers. Of course, you have Mahomes, Burrow, and Allen, the big three that everyone's always talking about. The upstart Jaguars, who Ziggy has apparently attached himself to throughout this season. I think that's your AFC team, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So you have all these teams, and I think those are the big 5 that people are paying attention to. Lamar Jackson, the Ravens drama. Then you have teams like the Broncos, who have this big move with Sean Payton in the offseason. And they're just kind of flying under the radar. Very talented team. And you have to remember, last year, they lost 9 one-score games. 4-9 in one-score games. 0-3 in overtime games. If you flip around that 9-4 record, this is a 10-win team. On the other hand, if they scored 20 points a game last year, also a 10-win team. So it wasn't like the Broncos were going out and getting murdered every week. It was unwatchable football. It was really tough offense to watch. I ran a Broncos show with their former offensive lineman, Orlando Franklin, and one of the volume hosts, Liv Moods. It was just brutal to have to watch those games every single day, every single Sunday. But when we talk about the Vikings being 11-0 in one-score games, the Broncos were kind of the reverse of that. And there is a lot of talent, and with Sean Payton coming in, you now give Russell Wilson the best offensive mind that he has ever been with. Ziggy, why are you smiling at that?
Well, look, I mean, Sean Payton, of course, he's an excellent offensive mind. I'm not trying to question that. But I think back to the Russell Wilson we saw last year, and look, he's getting old. He's a player who's relied a lot on his athleticism. And I'm just not sure we're going to see Russell Wilson take that step forward. And you look at who the backup is, right? If Russell Wilson sucks, it's like Ben DiNucci. Sean Payton said today.
They also have Jarrett Stidham. They brought him over from Vegas.
They overpaid Jarrett Stidham for what? I think they gave him $10 million or something outrageous. He looked terrible in Las Vegas. But look, Sean Payton, he said this morning that after Ben DiNucci threw a pick six, that Ben DiNucci should be considering getting a job as a Walmart greeter. Rob Walton recently bought the Broncos, owner of Walmart. If Ben DiNucci is a Walmart greeter, I think Russell Wilson's like a Walmart floor manager. He's significantly better, right? He can take on some responsibility. He's kind of a leader, but he's not the kind of guy I want to trust my franchise to anymore. It looks increasingly, after we saw what happened in Seattle, like he was carried by Pete Carroll. If they can make Geno Smith look good, they can make anyone look good. I don't know. I'm just not sold on Russell Wilson and the Broncos, even with Sean Payton.
I think Denver could be really good.
How good?
This is a team who I think talent-wise is the second best in the AFC West. Better than the Chargers, better than the Raiders, not quite as good as the Chiefs. But 2 games last year against Kansas City, both close games. They beat the Chargers in the most recent game they played, I believe. And now you bring in their coach is an idiot too. He's a moron.
Yes,
he's an idiot.
Well, I don't want to go so far. You and Andrew rip apart Nathaniel
Nobody
Hackett,
wanted to play for him. It's like similar to Cliff Kingsbury.
No one wanted to play for him. He had no control.
He was terrible. He was
a bad head coach. Everyone can agree on that.
Bad head coach.
Yes.
So
now, we try and make things a little nicer on the show sometimes.
And now you bring in
No, we don't. What are you talking about?
you bring in a Super Bowl winning coach in Sean Payton. Last time he had a Super Bowl level quarterback was Drew Brees, and the Saints were a great team every year. So now you have Russ and this offense with good weapons, one of the best defenses in football, with one of the better head coaches to ever coach.
Mm-hmm.
I think this team can get over the hump, be 4-2 in that division, and get into the playoffs. This is a super talented. It's not a crappy team like the Texans who have nobody. This is a super talented team who was playing for more on last year. Yeah. I think they're going to be very good. I seriously do.
You talk about the offensive talent on this team, and we know the defense is very good. Patrick Surtain, obviously, Justin Simmons, great secondary.
It's one of the best in football.
The defensive line, a little weak. We'll see how that goes this season. But again, should be a very good defense. On offense, I was just looking at what the Broncos have been doing this offseason. Offensive line, much, much better. Last year, they gave up 63 sacks.
They're going to be good.
They've addressed it in many ways. They brought Mike McGlinchey over from San Francisco. They've replaced Dalton Reisner, who was a big problem at left guard, with Ben Powers, who a lot of people thought was one of the best interior offensive linemen, maybe the best in free agency. And then you have Garrett Bowles returning from injury. He had a broken leg last October. He's over there at left tackle. So the offensive line should be much better. Ziggy, I know you're talking about how Russell Wilson isn't as mobile as he used to be. Still a mobile quarterback, but shoring up that offensive line a little bit, definitely going to help. And when you look on the outside, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, and Tim Patrick, none of them really scare me. I think Sutton, when last year Sutton was supposed to explode. And we are all disappointed.
That's a good receiver. The whole Broncos, it was underwhelming for the Broncos' team.
Underwhelming as a whole.
Underwhelming season.
But there's undeniable talent. Javonte Williams, too, should be coming back. It just feels like one of these teams where if it all clicks, they can be really, really good. But last season was so bad. It's hard to envision Sean Payton being able to fix all of that at once. But I'm not going to doubt him because, like you said, the Saints were good every single season with him. And when you look at all the teams that are competing in the AFC and the NFC, really, in these championship games, Kyle Shanahan, one of the best offensive minds. Nick Sirianni, who's one of the better head coaches in football at the moment, it seems. Andy Reid, arguably the only guy who could be better than Sean Payton. And Zach Taylor, people criticize Zach, but you can't argue with the success he's had. These coach Doug Peterson, too. Look at what he did with Kansas City last year. Took him to the wire in the playoffs. Sean Payton's just as good, if not better, than most of those guys. And he has a lot to work with here. I'm excited to see what Russell Wilson can do.
Yeah, I think the biggest part for me in being pro Broncos this season is, I think, like I said, they have the overall roster is the second most talented roster in that division. It's not like they're a crappy team. I think they're better than the Chargers and the Raiders.
Yeah.
So I think they can be 4-2 in the AFC West.
When you look at them, though, in terms of the entire AFC. I feel like a lot of people are saying, okay, Chiefs should win their division. Bills will probably Bills or Jets, right?
The Broncos were crap last year and played the Chiefs close twice.
No, they did. Go ahead, Ziggy. I'm sorry.
Well, I think just for the Broncos, there's two questions you've got to ask, because y'all are right that they've got a talented roster. Sean Payton's good, all of this. There are two things that worry me. First, the Broncos relied heavily on their defense last year, and they probably will this year. But their excellent defensive coordinator, Ejiro Evero, gone. Right? Sean Payton didn't want him around, so he left. Second question you have to ask yourself. Russell Wilson, one of the big problems last year, he was recalcitrant to coaching. Right? Dude just did not want to listen to the coaching. I get the coaches were bad, but part of why they were bad was they couldn't get Russell Wilson to listen to them. You think, okay, Sean Payton, he's got a big name, he's got a brand. Maybe Russell Wilson will be able to listen to him. But if he wouldn't listen to Pete Carroll, I don't know. So if those things go right, the defense stays elite, Russell Wilson listens to the coaching, I totally agree. It's a talented roster. They could even threaten Kansas City. But that's a lot to ask for the defense to repeat and for Russell Wilson to change his ways.
Couple things. First, Ziggy, great pronunciation on the defensive coordinator from last year. That was beautiful.
Yeah, I didn't even
rolled off the tongue.
Yeah, I couldn't even come
really
close
nice.
to pronouncing that.
I don't even know if that's right. I'll be honest. I made that up on the spot, but we're hoping.
But with Russell Wilson, I first off, Sean Payton, who knows really what was going on behind the scenes there. Luckily, since I was doing the Broncos show, I've been able to hear a lot about how things were handled and what people actually think of Russell Wilson, sort of behind closed doors. I think that Sean Payton, out of anyone, Russell Wilson will respect what he has to say because, as we said before, Super Bowl winning coach. I don't think Russ, though, is the problem there. He's a hard worker. He comes in. There was the whole parking spot drama. We had Melvin Gordon on one of our shows, and Gordon said flat out, he said, no, that was never true. Russ just got there before everyone else and worked hard and worked super hard. Like, that's why he was in the same parking spot and those rumors started up. I think that he's generally well-liked in the locker room because he just seems like a really nice guy who wants to win football games. He just kind of gets this bad rep because he's a quirky dude. But at the end of the day, I do think he's a good leader and someone that you can rally around. So I look at Denver as a whole, and I say their schedule, they play the AFC East and the NFC North. NFC North's one of the weaker divisions in the NFL this season, except, the Vikings might run the table, we all know.
The Lions are going to run the table.
Lions will run the table. They'll have their chance against the Jets, against Cleveland. So let's put a bow on this Broncos discussion right here. In the AFC, let's pretend the Bills win, Chiefs, Jaguars, and who's the other one I'm forgetting right now? And the Bengals. Let's say they all win. Let's just say they all win.
Let's say, just assume.
All right.
I'm going to pretend no one else from the South is going to the playoffs. Between the Chargers, the Browns, the Ravens, the Steelers, and the Jets. And the Dolphins, we'll say. Are the Broncos better than any of those teams? Because the AFC is just so deep.
I was going to bring another point. It's like the fact that it stinks for the Broncos being in the AFC because you can argue that they're not even a top
10 team. That's 10 teams
a top
right there.
10 team. Where in the NFC, they're probably a top 5 team.
In the
and
NFC,
that's what the difficult thing is.
They could win the North in the NFC. They would probably win the South. I don't think they'd beat out Philly, and they probably won't beat out San Francisco.
But they're probably the second best team in the NFC East. You can argue.
Yeah. They could.
Well, but it's good news for the Broncos, right? Because they get to play the AFC East this year. So if they really are better than the Jets and the Dolphins, they'll get a chance to prove it.
And they get Cleveland too. And
they
get the Chargers twice. So for Denver, the opportunity's right out in front of them. I think this team takes some major strides forward. I think they probably come in around 8 or 9 wins. I'm going to have to dive into the schedule a little more.
The Broncos host the Jets, don't they?
Right? I believe they do host the Jets.
That's probably a winnable game.
That's the one. I think it's week 5.
Yeah, it's probably a winnable game.
Because we're looking at the Jets schedule the other day, and it's, obviously you have Mahomes in there and Dak and all that, but weeks 5 and 6, you have Denver and Philly.
Yeah.
So that Jets schedule is really tough. The first 6 weeks, really first 12 weeks, a lot of close games.
They're 1-5.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got Denver at the moment missing the playoffs, but I think they do have a run at it. Would you guys agree with that?
I'm going to say 4-2 in their division. I'm going to say about 9-8, 10-7 overall, and flirt with the 7 seed. Yeah.
Okay, and Ziggy, you seem to be out on them.
I'm feeling 6-10, 7-9.
Oh, so you're really not.
I think they will improve, right? Because you have to keep in mind, 8 wins is doubling their win total from last year almost.
Yeah.
How many games they won last year? Like 6?
They have five wins last year.
They got 5. 8's almost double that. I think 7 wins. I don't see it for this team. I don't think it's going to come together. There's a lot of hype, but it's never been substantiated. This year's not changing it.
I mean, but losing 4 games in OT and like 8
by
1
in
scores,
overtime, 9-1 score.
That's bound to change, you would hope.
But I also think the defense is going to regress a little bit. The defense was incredible last year, right? Again, as we said, if the offense scores 20 points a game, they win 10 games.
I
don't think we're going to see.
Just 20.
And 20 points that's probably below NFL average, or at least close to it.
Oh yeah,
I
can't. 25,
can't.
They're much higher.
That was the same deal with the Jets. I think if they had scored like 21 points a game, they would be like 12 and 5. Yeah,
they
which is why they could be scary this year.
No, that's why the AFC is going to be so fun, is because you have these established teams who have been good year after year now, and all of a sudden this season, and you kind of get this every NFL offseason, but now you're seeing the Broncos, the Jets, the Browns, who we're going to talk about in a second, all these teams that are just kind of getting
nobody's giving us any respect. Any respect at all.
Of course, and the Steelers as well. We will have a prediction video. We did our predictions in one of the recent episodes, but we'll be releasing that separately coming out. So again, make sure you check that out. We know that Steelers fans dislike us at the moment. They love Jack. But I do think that as we go forward in this offseason, they'll come around on me and Andrew. Well, not Andrew, but me and Ziggy at least. Because my opinion has changed. I am a changed man when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think that this is...
I mean, Andrew's saying 5 wins is absurd.
No. This is definitely a playoff contending team.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
For sure. Ziggy, well, let's move on to the Browns. But right before that, you had a Brett Favre story that you were talking about in our group chat. You said that, please tell me if I'm wrong, but you were a big fan of Favre growing up?
So it's funny. I wasn't even a big fan of Favre necessarily, but it's second grade, right? I'm in elementary school in Centerville, Ohio. And we're told that like our class assignment is to write a letter to someone famous and see what happens. And I have no idea how I choose this. You think about it, I started watching football. Paul got me into it when I was an undergrad in college. It's like I'm not sure I'd ever seen a football game. But somehow, in Ohio, right? It's not like there aren't sports people closer to you in Ohio. This is when Peyton Manning's like tearing up the NFL. I decide that Brett Favre is the player that I'm going to write something to. So I write some letter like, Dear Mr. Favre, I'm a big fan of everything you do. You're a big inspiration to me. That ended up not aging very well. I don't want to commit fraud against the elderly.
Or send dick pics to employees at the New York Jets facility.
Yeah, no. So setting all of that aside, this is before he did any of those things. I write a letter to him. And I'm really disappointed because months and months go by. And I don't hear anything back from Brett Favre or his team or whatever. Yeah, no, me and Brett, he ghosted me. But almost a year later, it's good because we were moving out of Ohio at this point. So if he'd sent it much later, I never would have gotten it. I get a handwritten message back, actually. My parents still have it. And it says, like, Dear Robert, really glad to hear this. I always like hearing from my fans. Keep doing what you do. Signed, Brett Favre.
Wow.
No, like...
Do you still have it?
My parents still have it. Yeah, it's in the garage somewhere.
That's funny. What's funny is it wasn't like... You were in Ohio. It wasn't like LeBron on the Cavs back then?
Yeah, no, there were so many people I could have picked in like 2005 Ohio.
And you weren't even a Packer or football
Not
fan.
Even a football fan. LeBron's playing on the Cavs, and he's writing to Brett Favre.
They probably like played the Browns that week, and Brett Favre's name was in the newspaper. So I'm like, I'll pick Brett Favre. But funny. No, it's just
that Brett Favre.
I guess I picked the right guy because I got something back from him. And hey, this proves I was destined to be a Vikings fan.
That Viking season with Favre was my favorite one ever.
I thought it was Brett Favre when he first came out.
The Packers get a favor, or the Falcons get a favor
by selecting Brett Favre.
Yeah. And
that's what I thought it was.
You know what's funny, Ziggy? Before we hit the Browns, because we're kind of known to go on tangents here. But when Jack and I and Zach were in third grade, I think remember the Living Museum?
Yeah.
When we were younger. Were you Abe Lincoln?
It was a rainy day when we went there, right?
What is this?
No. The Living Museum was
Museum Village. Yes.
Yeah. Whatever it was.
I remember. Yes.
I think it was called the Living Museum.
I was Abe Lincoln.
Yeah, it was a Living Museum.
Where so Ziggy, basically what happened was in third grade you picked some historical figure or current celebrity, and you just had to learn about them. And we would stand in I think we were all in the cafeteria, and we stood like statues, and the parents came in and they would press the button, and we'd give our little oral presentation on whoever it was.
So weird.
So we dressed up as them. I'm sure Jack had a beard and everything. Jack,
did.
do you remember who you
That
were?
was Christopher Columbus.
Oh, that's right, Chris Columbus.
Couldn't do that today.
You know who I got, Ziggy?
Yeah.
I reach into the hat and I pull out the little piece of paper and I see Newt Rockney. And I'm in third grade. I went, who the hell is Newt Rockney?
You probably said Nut Rockney.
Yeah, I think I did. I think I went Nut
We're going to get him
Rockney.
inside, outside.
Yep, so that's what I did. So it was kind of funny, like looking back on it, that Notre Dame was, that was the first introduction I had to Notre Dame football. And I was doing that whole presentation of on the inside, outside, go, 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 go.
You know who I got? I got Daniel Rudiger.
You got Rudiger. Could you imagine if you were Rudy and I was Newt?
Yeah, that would have been incredible.
That would have been great.
I would have imitated you.
Yeah, I would be right up front doing it, and then you'd be right behind me.
Yeah,
That would have been great.
That'd be hilarious.
I'm sorry, what kind of museum has Christopher Columbus, Abe Lincoln, and Newt Rockney?
Newt Rockney was a really strange choice to have there.
I get Lincoln and Columbus, but Rockney?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Whenever someone presses my button, I just make like sheep sounds, like.
So that's what you reminded me of when you were just talking about like interacting or having like famous people and stuff like that. So
I wrote President Bush a letter in second grade. He wrote me back.
President Bush.
George
wrote you
W.
back.
Bush, yeah.
George W. Did it look like your mom or dad's handwriting?
No, it's a big frame.
Oh my god.
Yeah, we still have it.
You have a letter from George W. Bush.
I do. Yep.
There's no way.
Oh yeah.
His secretary definitely wrote it and just sent it back.
I mean, maybe. But it was
Dear
like
Jack.
it was a whole big frame. It was like this nice looking paper.
So the president wrote this and framed it for you and sent it?
Oh, it was like a whole beautiful thing. Yeah.
What'd you say to him?
I wrote like a little picture, and just like
You drew the president a picture,
yeah.
and he sent back a framed.
He never saw it. He never saw it.
Hey, you know what? As far as this show went, Ziggy's friends with Brett Favre, Jack interacts with the president, and I pretend to be Newt Rockney in my spare time.
No,
Jack's Christopher Columbus.
It's a cool letter.
That's-
I'm like, wow.
Yeah. All right. Maybe we'll have to write to someone. You know what? If you're listening right now, comment who you'd like the show to write to, and we'll try and get in contact with someone and see if our luck continues. Because apparently,
I'll write a letter to anyone.
yeah, apparently we have good luck when it comes to this stuff. People write back, and in some cases they frame it.
It looks professional, legit. I'm like, this is crazy stuff.
I think I should write a letter to Joe Shane telling him that he's really bad at managing the Giants. I bet I'll get a response for that.
Ziggy, I'm friends with Josh.
Yeah, we met Joe Shane.
Oh yeah, no. So you guys can pass it on to him. Just hand it to him personally.
We'll
Say,
hand it
hey,
to him at
At
Cava, our restaurant that we like to go to.
when you're getting dinner with him.
Yeah, again, it's for the second time. Yeah. All right, let's move on to the Browns. But again, please comment who you'd like us to write to. If you're listening, Bill Withers, let us know. We'll write to whoever Bill Withers.
Bill's listening. Bill's listening.
So
Bill's a VIP at this point.
the Browns. Are the Browns better than people realize?
No, they're worse than people think.
You have to remember Deshaun
No bias.
Watson. Deshaun Watson last year, I think it had been around 700 days or so
He's done.
since he had played in an NFL
He's
game.
not liked anymore. People
He's,
don't
no,
like
no,
him.
he's not liked at all. But he only played 6 weeks last year after not playing for about two full years. He's a 27-year-old. He's 27 still. There's still so much time in his career. And when you look around the Browns, a lot of people are giving them great grades for this offseason. Short up some defensive line problems. Zadarius Smith just comes in.
I'm getting deja vu.
They get Elijah Moore. The Browns are talking like they're going to win the AFC North right now.
It's deja vu.
And you think they're full of
I
crap?
think it's total deja vu.
But what's the biggest reason?
We've heard this a couple of years ago. Oh, here comes Odell, and they have Chubb, and build up the defense with Ward, and this team's going to win the AFC North. They're going to be good. Oh, 7-10. It's just it's the Browns. It's a crappy organization that's full of bad luck. There's a black cloud over them, and they're terrible. They're not going to be good. I'm not a believer. I think Watson. I think he's going to stink.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a believer at all. I think they're the worst team in the division.
Ziggy, would you echo that word for word?
I would say maybe the opposite. Look, I got a lot of problems with Deshaun Watson. We don't have to get into that. But the fact is, you're talking about a player who, there's a reason teams are lining up the door when he wanted out of Houston to trade a bunch of first-round picks for him. He's shown that he can be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Look, he was bad last year, but it's easy to understand why. He couldn't practice with the team. He hadn't played in years. You're talking about a defense that was so putrid last year. You have to believe they're going to regress to the mean. They've got competent receivers. I can see this team having a top 10 offense and an average defense, and that is a winning formula.
This could be a top 10
Watson's
defense.
no better than Baker Mayfield.
That's ridiculous. Baker Mayfield never put together a top 5 season. Deshaun Watson did.
It's over for him. He's done. He's done.
When I look at the Browns right now, first I want to touch on the defense, like you said, Ziggy. They kind of revamped their safety position. They still have Grant Delpit, but they bring in Juan Thornhill, who will start, and they also have Rodney McLeod now. I believe Rodney McLeod came in. So they addressed the back end of the secondary. On the corners, you currently have Denzel Ward and you have Greg Newsome, two guys who, if they live up to their talent, pretty solid cornerback duo. And then on the D-line, they actually plucked some people from the Vikings. They have Zadarius Smith now and Dalvin Tomlinson. The one cautionary note that I'd have on Zadarius Smith is he started last year, and you've seen this, Ziggy. He started last year with his hair on fire. Off the charts good, just dominating games, completely changing them from start to finish. But towards the end of the year, remember, he's an older guy now, and you started to see him kind of wane off a bit. And really, by the end of the year, there weren't many impact plays coming from Zadarius. So that signing, while it looks really good on paper at the moment, I'm not too sure that by the season's end, Smith will have a lot left in the tank. I'm just a little cautious on that. Do you disagree with that?
But just do you think about what the Browns need? I agree that he's not going to be a star, but they've got a guy who's a top 3 defensive player of the year candidate on one side of Myles Garrett. All you need is somebody who has a chance to win one-on-one. And Zadarius Smith is at least that.
Yes. And that's one thing for Browns fans who are currently typing out right now. Like, this idiot, he doesn't know how good our D-line is. They have a lot of good players on the D-line. So if Smith can come in and be a rotational player, yeah, you could be looking at a really ferocious unit.
Let me just say one thing. Any positive Browns talk,
just watch it.
I'm throwing it out the window completely because it's deja vu. It's like I'm reliving this whole thing again.
Well, I mean, you're kind of right.
We're going to beat them twice like we do every, 30-2 against the Browns in the last 32 games, something ridiculous like that. Mm-hmm. They're not good. It's a crappy franchise. They're not good. They're never going to be good. They stink. I mean, what did they go? They went 10-7, beat the Steelers in front of an empty stadium by a couple scores and threw a ticker tape parade. And they're pathetic.
So do you think there's no chance Deshaun Watson comes back?
No, I think
he can get himself back to a top 10 quarterback in the league?
I think he's done. I think he stinks.
Just too.
I think
he's unliked, and I think he's done.
I think what everyone can agree upon is, yeah.
I think they'll be
like what. Yeah, what matters is Deshaun Watson's play because the Browns have a top 3 offensive line. They've got an elite running back. You know, Elijah Moore, Amari Cooper, and David Njoku. That's not the best core you've ever heard, but it's hardly the worst. It all depends on Deshaun Watson. If he can, Jack, can you at least say this? If he somehow, maybe magically, becomes a top 10 quarterback, this is a playoff team with a chance to make a run.
Not in the AFC. It's too good.
Really? See, I disagree with that. If Deshaun's a top 10 quarterback, this is a very dangerous team.
No, they'll be 8-8.
I think the rest of the roster is really good.
It was a couple years back when they had Odell and Chubb and a good defense and a good line.
And who at quarterback?
I don't see Watson being any better than Baker.
If you put a top 10 quarterback on this Cleveland Browns team, they're better than the Dolphins. Sorry, Zach. Well, the Dolphins are really good, but they're
for me, it's hypothetical. I don't see him being top 10 at all.
I know. That's true. But they could.
I can't even envision that. But okay, fine.
Better than the Broncos.
If he is, I guess I have to say, yeah. I
just want to say in his last career season, right? Like in his last full season, where he actually got to do an off season and play in all the games. You say he wasn't better than Baker Mayfield. He put up 4,800 yards, 33 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. If he does that with the Browns this year, they're lighting the league on fire.
That was before his incident, before his injury. I don't trust him. I just think he's done. I mean, he can prove me wrong, and I'll eat my words, but we'll see. Until he does.
All I'm saying is, if you're telling, like the Browns right now have 25-1 Super Bowl odds. I think that's too low for a team with a quarterback with this kind of potential. Like you know what? Or you talk about MVP again, like he can't win MVP, but his odds are the same as Trey Lance. Who's the better player?
Okay, I agree, but I guess to answer your question, yeah, if Deshaun Watson is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL this year and plays like he even remotely close to how he's played in the past, I can't say no to the Browns being a playoff team. I'd have to say yes. I just don't see it happening.
And the other thing, too, to keep in mind with the Browns this season is last year, so many eyes were on them and on Deshaun Watson's return as that grew closer and closer. And a lot of scrutiny. Every single week it was I think that's going to regress a little bit this season now. It'll like people still dislike him. Most fans will not be fans of Deshaun Watson at all. I know a lot of Browns fans who actually have like left the team. They don't want to be fans at all. But from a media perspective, I don't think that the massage storyline will be as big and loom over the franchise the same way. I'm just not expecting that. So some of the pressure in that regard will come off. I see most of the pressure being on Kevin Stefanski, the head coach there in Cleveland, who I just never was that impressed by. He came from Minnesota, and his whole time there, I thought our offense was really not very good with him in control. So I have some coaching concerns with Cleveland, and I'm not sure that they're going to live up to the challenge. But from a talent standpoint, this team is really impressive, and I expect them to make a run at the playoffs.
I just think it's a black cloud organization.
It's fair. No, that's fair. There are teams like the Lions and the Browns and the Texans of late.
I think it's a black. The Browns more so than the Texans historically.
Oh, much more than Texans historically.
I think it's a black cloud.
It's really like the Lions. Trying to think what other teams just have that black cloud hanging over.
No, when you're talking about teams that have been in the league for a while, it's just the Browns and the Lions. They're in a tier of their own.
Like
everyone else at some point has been good.
But
the Jets at least have us. They had some good years, right? They even had those like AFC championship runs back to back. That was like something.
Yeah.
The Lions and the Browns have never had anything like that.
Mm-hmm. So to put a bow on the Browns discussion here, when you look at them this season, floor ceiling, Jack, what do you say? The floor is.
I'm gonna say the floor is low. I think the floor is 5-12. I think the ceiling is 8-9.
Wow. Okay.
So I think they'll go maybe 7-10.
Spoken like a true Steelers fan. I respect that.
And most Steelers fans agree.
I respect that. Ziggy, how about you? Floor ceiling for Cleveland.
The floor, honestly, what was Deshaun Watson's record of the Browns last year? Because they got a lot of wins with Jacoby. Was it like
he was bad.
2-5?
It was not good. I think he played.
I think the floor for them is actually 4 or 5 wins. Yeah. I think that things could fall off the rails quickly because look, if they don't start good, Stefanski's getting fired, right? And then things really spiral. I think their ceiling's 11 or 12 wins in a Super Bowl run. I really think this is one of the highest variance teams in the NFL this year, and I wouldn't be stunned to see either of those outcomes. And it all depends on one guy.
Yeah, crazy. I have it 6 wins is the floor. I'm a little more optimistic about them than you are, Jack, and the floor as well for you, Ziggy. Just there's too much talent. So I like 6 wins as the floor. And then I agree with you. I think that ceiling rises up to 11, 12 wins because
12 wins is a lot.
Oh, it's a lot of wins, but you have to remember
to be 12-5, you got to be unbelievable.
You got to be really good. And I think this team, if Deshaun Watson plays to the level he was once capable of, I see no reason why they can't be one of the better teams one of the better teams in the league. And 2, when you look at their schedule, they have the AFC South and NFC West this year. Same schedule as you guys. It's
a Korean buff.
It's a light schedule.
And they've got an even easier schedule because they finished last in the division last year.
Yeah, so they're gonna have a pretty light schedule.
If Watson, go and prove me wrong, and I'll leave my words.
The thing is that we have to keep in mind too. It's the AFC North. Yes, their schedule's light. But we're not going to see, in all likelihood, 4 teams from that division go to the playoffs for sure. So somewhere in there will be a letdown. One or two of these teams will be a little disappointing. I'm expecting.
I think it'll be Baltimore.
You think Baltimore?
Could be. Low key.
I think that's a discussion next week.
Low key could be.
I think next week that could be the discussion. So there you go on the Browns. We think they could be really good. Jack thinks they suck.
I also believe black and gold. I mean, every Steelers fan in the world say the same thing.
All right.
Maybe a little biased.
So why don't we get ready to wrap up this show? As we mentioned, we're not going to do a draft today. We're going to wait for Andrew to come back, hopefully next week. Fun draft. We're going to do Nickelodeon and Disney shows, which I think will turn into a bloodbath because everyone has their opinions, very strong opinions on these shows from growing up. And I'm excited to see exactly. I know Jack's a Disney guy. I'm more of a Nickelodeon guy. Ziggy, I really don't know. Ziggy,
what are you?
I didn't watch any of these shows growing up.
Oh, so he'll win the draft.
Oh, so he'll win the draft.
He'll win the draft. Yeah. That makes sense.
I'm just trying to manifest Zach energy right now. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to get in his head.
Oh, there's a clear. Yeah. If you want to win, Zach's vote.
Just don't say like what the good shows were back then, and you'll win the draft.
Oh yeah. If you've watched our show before, you probably can get an idea of what show would win it for Zach. There's a 1-1 in the book of Zach Bloomquist, which is, again,
It's the correct 1-1, by the way, but we'll see when we get there.
Right. So real quick before we wrap, though, we did the villains draft last week. This will be a short discussion here. We did the villains draft, and with the third overall pick, Darth Vader went. It went Joker. Then number 2 went Plankton, who I actually thought I thought Plankton was an okay pick by Andrew.
Yeah, a lot of people that I've talked to said that Plankton, a funny pick, but not actually terrible.
Yeah.
But Zurg screwed.
Zurg was horrendous.
That's not even a top 30.
But then
villain.
Darth Vader at 3. And Zach said afterwards, it's like, Palpatine is a better Star Wars villain in general than Darth Vader in this draft. Like, I don't see why.
True.
Like, how did he go on
I
draft?
mean, we can get 500 people to comment what they think. I think everyone might say Darth Vader.
Except the people that Zach and I ask, apparently.
Yeah. I mean, maybe like 497-3 in favor of Darth Vader.
Well, this whole discussion starts because I was discussing with our friend Michael, who used to be on the show about a year ago. And Michael was saying, Palpatine is probably a better villain than Vader. And I was like, what? Are you out of your mind? I said, text Zach right now. I 100% guarantee you he will say Darth Vader. And a minute goes by and Mike's like, Zach said Palpatine. Zach said Palpatine. And I was like, are you kidding me with this right here?
You look at every list of like, just Google best villains ever. Vader, Joker.
No.
I'm also like the Star Wars fanboy here, so whatever I say is like God to these guys.
No. Zach is the biggest Star Wars fan of anyone here. But yeah,
I'm not sure that's true.
You should know better than anyone that Darth Vader is the face of Star Wars.
He is the face, but that doesn't mean he's the better
I
villain.
mean, Palpatine doesn't even cross like top 30 on most lists for villains. You look up
It's
villains.
because Palpatine doesn't have a story. If you gave Palpatine the story, I bet you he's...
But he doesn't have this. So Vader has the great story, the redemption story. He has the
it doesn't
mask,
make him
the
a better
iconic
villain.
look. He has the music. He's again the face of Star Wars. When you combine all of that,
He's not the face of Star Wars
He is
if
the face of Star
Palpatine
Wars.
doesn't exist.
If you ask non-Star Wars fans who Darth Vader is, they'd say yes. If you ask them who Palpatine is, they'd say I have no clue.
Look, when we're ranking
what it comes
best
down to.
villains, we're not ranking who's the most important in the world of their fictional universe. We're talking who's iconic, who inspires people as a villain, right? Like, who do you again say that's a real villain? And it's not the old guy scheming, sitting over in a chair. We brought him back because we're too lazy to figure out a real villain in the 9th film.
That's pretty good.
The reason that you got Darth Vader is you say that we couldn't have Darth Vader without Palpatine. We had a whole movie of Darth Vader without Palpatine. It was called Star Wars: A New Hope. Heard it was a pretty good movie.
Oh no, he means Zach means that within the story itself, you don't have Vader, which yes,
and that's completely irrelevant.
I agree.
Right, what matters is who is the better villain. And frankly, Darth Vader, the very first scene he appears in, is better than anything Palpatine ever did.
I might switch sides right now on every. You know what this reminds me of?
No.
You know what this reminds me of?
Let me know.
Don't say it.
Our pink draft. When I said I think the tongue is a better pick than bacon because you can't taste bacon without your tongue.
It's again. That's utility. That's utility.
If there is,
Exactly.
right. I'm seeing it now.
Thank
I'm
you,
seeing
Jack.
it.
Thank
Bacon
you.
tastes great, but you can't taste it if you don't have a tongue.
No, are you listening to anything he said?
So if there's no Darth Vader without Palpatine, I might switch.
But that's
sides.
not true. We had a movie of Darth Vader without Palpatine. It happened.
It's just the story.
We're not talking about in-universe.
We're talking
No
about
one cares about what happens in the universe.
So you're going to tell me Palpatine, the guy who made up a whole war by himself, right, is worse than Vader. He's
an old guy sitting in a chair.
Yeah,
Darth Vader is a
and he was playing
badass.
chess with himself with real life people.
No, Zach, I'll give you this. Palpatine, more evil. He's more manipulative. Probably more. He's more powerful than Darth Vader.
So how would you define a villain then?
He's more important to the whole war. I'm talking about an iconic character who everyone knows and is.
But it's the villain draft, right? It's not called the iconic draft.
If we're drafting the most,
this isn't the iconic draft. Of course, Darth Vader is one.
Oh, well, then Satan's one.
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
If you're talking about most evil, it's a completely different draft than
a villain. A villain.
Yeah,
Palpatine is a villain.
He's a great villain. He's an all-time villain.
He's a better villain
I
than
never
Darth
heard
Vader.
of Palpatine.
He's more evil than Darth Vader. He's not a better villain. Part of being a villain, I do
being
think
evil.
No, that's a large part of it. That's a large part of within the movie is being evil. But being a villain to draft in a villain draft, I think that you need to take in all of the outside stuff, the stuff that the fandom around it. Darth Vader is
I bet you if you asked
iconic.
real Star Wars fans, they would say Palpatine is the better.
I strongly disagree.
I
am a real Star Wars fan. I can tell you, Palpatine is an egregious pick.
We gotta get comments.
We'll need comments.
Palpatine's not a top 5 Star Wars villain, by the way.
Ziggy, who's your top 5 Star Wars villains?
These are my top 5 Star Wars villains.
Yeah. There's more than like 3 villains in Star Wars.
Yeah.
What, a stormtrooper? Does that count?
No, that does not count.
Oh.
So let's see. You gotta have Vader.
Okay.
I mean,
Are you counting just movies or are you counting shows?
No, I'm not. I'm not counting just
It's
movies. I'm
about
counting
you.
everything.
Okay.
Extremely nerdy in here.
No, I'm butting out.
You know what? The fans don't want to hear this. We can talk about this afterwards.
All right. Do you have a top 5 off the top of your head?
I've got a top 3. I'm not sure I have a top 5.
All right, give us your top 3, and then we'll close the show, and we'll see.
Top 3. You've got to have Vader.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to have Darth Treya, and you got to have Admiral Thrawn. If you got those 3, I mean, it's game over.
I like the Thrawn. I think Thrawn beats out Treya.
I've never heard of those people.
Thrawn is like the greatest villain ever.
I'm a fairly big Star Wars fan. I have no idea what's going on.
I was Vader once for
Oh,
Halloween.
you were not a Star Wars fan.
Actually, on the contrary, Paul did get me into Star Wars.
I love Star Wars, but I don't have all the comic book and.
Wait! Hold on. Did you just say that being the reason that somebody becomes something doesn't automatically make you better than them? So is Paul a bigger Star Wars fan than you because he got you into Star Wars?
No, I'm just saying Paul
Am
got
I
me
the
into Star Wars.
Palpatine?
Oh, so
You're
Palpatine's
Vader?
not a bitter villain just because he made Darth Vader evil.
I
Boom,
might
case
be the
closed.
Palpatine to his Vader.
Case closed.
Paul is the Palpatine to my
Yeah, look at that. It comes full
to
circle.
the Vader.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
Paul's a bigger Star Wars fan. Game over. Paul wins.
All right, we'll wrap it up there. Again, next week when we come back, potentially a little bit of Ravens talk, and I'm sure that Jack will have glowing things to say about
team's
Lamar
going
Jackson,
2-15.
John Harbaugh, and the Baltimore Ravens. We'll have that Nickelodeon draft and Disney Channel draft, and hopefully Andrew's back. So we will see you then. Again, please remember to like, comment, subscribe. Thanks to Jack and Ziggy and Zach for being here today. We'll see you next time on the Paul Farrington Show. Peace.